Well, here we've opened up the image inside of Photoshop, and we're going to do the adaptive wide angle feature to it. But before I do that, I want to go to my layers panel and I want to choose to convert this to a smart object. So I just right clicked on the layer and brought that up from the contextual menu. Now the reason I do this is because basically after I finalize the adjustment, if I kind of look at it again and say, oh, I don't like that, I can basically go back and start re-editing from where I left off. So I like the flexibility that gives me. I can go to my filter menu and choose adaptive wide angle. That's Shift Command A on the Mac or Shift Control A on the PC. And it's going to bring this up and it's going to look really weird. Now mine defaults to fisheye, and I actually want to do perspective correction. So I'm going to choose perspective from the drop down menu here. And it's actually reading my EXIF data here. So it figures out that, scaling's at 100. Yeah, that's fine. The focal length I was shooting at 11 millimeters. And my crop factor is 1.57. So I just leave that unless it can't read the data, then you'd have to put in that information from your camera. But you'll notice it's really bowed things up. And what we want to do in real estate photography, we don't want converging verticals. And converging verticals happen especially with wide angle lenses when your camera's not pointed vertically or exactly level. If you point down, the verticals start to converge at the top, and if you point up, the verticals other way around. If you point up, they start to converge at the top, and if you point down, they start to converge at the bottom. We want our verticals to stay vertical, and all our other lines, our horizontal lines, to actually just be straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to this edge, and this is obviously supposed to be a vertical, and it's bowed right now. And I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to draw around to the other end of this, and you'll see that it actually curves with me. It kind of knows that this is sort of bowed. And then I'm going to hold down my shift key, and that's going to turn pink, and that basically means that I want this to be a vertical. So when I click on it, it goes vertical. Now doing it at the edges of the frame is the most important place. So we're going to come over here, and I don't have anything hard and fast, but I know these wrinkles are going to be generally vertical. So I'm going to start right here, click on this, and I'm going to drag down sort of about to where, I'm looking at where this would sort of end. And about like that, and I'm going to hold down the shift key. Or actually, if I set this up here, it'll set it to something arbitrary. And if I right click on this, I can choose vertical after the fact. Now I've got a few other ones that I know are supposed to be vertical. Like this should be vertical, so I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom of where that wall ends and hold shift and click that down. So now that's vertical. And I know that this fireplace right here should be vertical. I don't have to do everything because it's going to figure out, that was vertical. So, but let's just put that in there a bit. And then I'm going to actually grab the end of this and drag it up here. And I just want to make sure that it's that this is still sitting right up against the line and right down there. Yes, it is. And what this does is it allows it to extrapolate above, saying that this would continue as a vertical line. Now I've got some horizontal lines that I need to sort of straighten out here. So I'm going to start here right in the corner of this room, and I'm going to drag out. And I can go right to here, but I'd like to go a little further. So I'm going to drag further and just make sure that the line traces along the area that I have and sort of figures out where it would otherwise go if you didn't have this sort of part of the wall that's sort of jutting out. And I'm just going to click there, and that's going to straighten that. I'm going to come over here, click on that, and I'm going to come down to this bit of the trim there. So what I try to do is define a straight line at the top and bottom of each wall. So this should be vertical as well, but I can't, it's really hard to kind of see where it is. So let's see. So I think it's about there, and I'm going to set that as vertical. Now I'm going to basically draw the line here across the bottom, sort of into here, and so I think that would basically trace that edge of the room there. I'm going to click on that, and that's going to straighten that out. Then I'm going to come here, click on that, and kind of drag around to there. That's about where that other wall would go, and click that. Now I can look here and I see some things like, for instance, this is curving a bit, so I don't much like that. I'm going to try and drag that all the way to the edge of the wall though, and drag it out past here. There we go. I know this is going to be straight, so I'll drag that to there. And I know that the edges of my frames are going to be more or less straight, so I don't know that they're going to be vertical, but I can just basically sort of drag along the edge, and I'll probably get a little bit more of the area back that I may otherwise lose, like right here. If I drag down around here and click, then it'll straighten that out, and I'll be able to kind of salvage more of this when I take it into to do the final post. Like that there. And maybe just do this here, just to probably go a little further than I need to, but I'd rather do that than forget and end up with something where I didn't quite get something and I've got some areas that are bowing. So that's probably good. And I'm click OK. And it's just going to go through and apply that filter. And there we are. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crop tool. And I mean, I might as well crop that away. And I don't really need that there. So yeah, there we go. Crop away here. The ceiling, I don't really need all that. So I'm just going to crop that down to here. Down here, I'd rather not lose that, so I'm going to try and do a content-aware fill. So there we are. Oh, yes, and you may go, what happened? But it actually has to re-render the smart filter. If you converted the layer to a smart object, it's actually got to regenerate that effect that you had. So you'll see the original image, and then it'll change again, and you'll see the perspective corrected image. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at this and yay, I like it. Good. Okay. So I'm going to go to layer and flatten image. I have to rasterize that smart object before I can do this. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool. I just press the W key and select that white area and that white area. And I actually have a little one up in this corner over here. I'm going to hold shift and I can add that to the selection. Now I am going to go to my select menu and I'm going to choose modify and expand. I want it to get a little bit more to grab onto, so I'm just going to expand it by 5 pixels. And then I'm going to choose, well, I hold shift and hit delete. And that's going to bring up my fill. And that's content aware. Yes, I want to fill it with content aware. Click OK. And it's going to go through this. And it may be that it does a good job, maybe it does a bad job, some sort of inconsistent. And if it does a bad job, then you may have to fix it, or you may have to just crop that area away, which, you know, then you're losing some of the wideness of your lens. So let's have a look at this. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. If I come over here, I'm not liking that, but I could just kind of grab my spot healing brush, make sure it's set to content aware, and I'm just going to go over that little shadow there. Maybe any of those areas that look a little funny. There we go. Okay, so we're not looking too bad, and I'm just going to save this as it's sittingroom.tiff. Okay, I'm going to save that, and I can replace it. There we go, it's calculating this, and then I'm going to import this into Lightroom because the filter that I want to use actually has to be executed through Lightroom. So we'll come back in a minute.